Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys, wherever you are around the world. It's me, Dylan. If you're a first timer, well, thank you for choosing me to hang out with you. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much. You guys, please leave a like if you find this video or any of my videos useful to you or motivating or helpful. Share it with your friends, your family, your neighbor, your dog, your cat. And in this video, we're gonna go a bit technical. This is the morning conversation wherein I drive to work and I share with you guys my thoughts and some couple of tidbits here and there. And today I want to share with you what constitutes a perfect cutover. Okay, so if you're not that, not really, I wouldn't want to call you guys you're not tech savvy, because the mere fact that you clicked on my video, it means that you have you have something to do with IT, right? So what constitutes a perfect cutover, or what is a cutover? Let's deal with that first. So cutover is, for example, if you're moving from one service to another, or you're implementing a new service from an old service, or you're relocating, or so let's say you have a single service. When I say service, it's going to be like any tail. So this this is a it may apply to like other kinds of service, like for an MSP, but I'm more in this scenario, I'm talking about more into the service provider space, because I work for a service provider. So let's say if you're transitioning from DSL to NBN, or you have like this fiber link and you're adding a secondary link as a failover, or you're transitioning from one routing protocol to another because you realize, like, oh my gosh, EIGRP is not really a standard. Well, it is now, but you want to move out from EIGRP, and let's say you want to go to OSPF or BGP or whatever, something would require change in the network. So that's what I call a cutover. Now, I will be honest with you guys, regardless of how simple or complex the cutover is, it always gives me the heebie-jeebies. Not because I'm not sure if this will work, though there are rare moments that happen, especially if we're doing it for the first time, implementing a solution. But it's mostly, I always pray and hope that the other end, because normally we would do this with a partner or with a customer, wherein we always don't have control over their network. So I would always hope that hopefully the other end, they have done their part, they have done their prep. So just like what my chef would tell me while I was training back then, prep is everything, which is true. So let me give you a couple of tips on how to do the perfect cutover. Okay, so before that, you have to remember that a cutover, again, depending on its complexity, shouldn't take long. It should only take a couple of minutes. If it isn't working for more than, my rule of thumb personally, if it's taking more to like max, let's just say max 30 minutes, and things are still not working, you would have to consider a rollback, because time is money. You cannot afford your customer or your users to be down, or services to be down for such a long time, because time is money. Okay, So that will be part of what I will be talking about as well, like to have a backup plan. All right, so now there are, I believe, two kinds of cutover. One cutover is the one where you can roll back. You know, if things go pear-shaped, you can always, let's go back to the drawing board, and maybe we missed something. That's one kind of a cutover, something that you can easily roll back. Then there are some kinds of cutovers wherein there's a point of no return. This can be like a relocation. Like, okay, so from this site has moved from site A going to site B, and yeah, starting Monday, nobody will be on that site A and everybody will be in site B. So obviously they were like expecting internet, and if everybody starts working on site B come Monday and you don't have a service, then it's time to start thinking of things. All right, so let's go with a tip. So again, just a review, two kinds of cutover. One is the one that you can do a rollback, and the one that has a point of no return. So okay, so now let's go to my tips. So, well, tip number one. Okay, let's start with the hard ones. So for example, for sites that has a point of no return, right? Site that has like a point of no return, wherein as I've said previously, it's site B, and everybody from site A is moving to site B come Monday. You have to make sure that before you do the cutover, that the service at site B is already working. Okay, so let's just say that it's an internet service and it's, you know, it has a fixed public IP. You can ask your service provider, okay, before we transition the site, well, again, also it depends on how much time you have, right? As much as possible, give plenty of time before you actually do the cutover, making sure that everything is tested, right? So let's just say site B, you are moving all your servers, you're moving all your, you know, the LAN to site B, and it's public facing. It has like a public IP that you don't want to change. So I would suggest you ask your service provider, okay, before we do the cutover, we would like to do some testing. Can you provide us like a temporary public IP that we could use just to test the link, making sure that everything's working, we're happy with the speed. If you're providing like 100 or 50, we're gonna speed test this thing, and we're gonna use the crap out of it, max it, making sure that nothing breaks before we move the actual the site to it, right? So that is tip number one. You know, making sure that you've fully tested the link before you do a cutover. Well, this also applies if, you know, if it's not a relocation, if it's just like an upgrade. So let's say it's a private network. Make sure you test the network before you move over your customers to it, or your users to this new network. Okay, so tip number two, as the saying goes, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And not everybody can afford this, but it's always good to have this in place, like a failover solution. You know, regardless if it's like, you know, a wireless connection, a 4G connection, a 3G, or whatever is available to you, make sure you always have, this is also good if you have like the point of no return kind of cutover. In the event that something happens, so let's say it's relocation time and you do not have that luxury of actually testing the link, but everybody needs to move to site B on Monday, and they just handed over the service, let's say Sunday, I don't know, worst case scenario. So it would be a good idea to always have like a backup plan or a backup link in the event that something happens, right? Like a 4G or a temporary solution, This will always also apply, for example, if you are cutting over to a service, or if the site cannot afford to have downtime, right? So if you have mission critical servers there, apps that you're hosting on-prem, it would be good to have like a failover solution in place before. So let's say you want to cut over from copper to fiber. It's always good that you have this failover link, so in the event that as that thing goes down, this failover link will kick in, and downtime is so minimum, sometimes your customer wouldn't even feel it. So those are so far are my tips for like your point of no return kind of cutovers. Now let's go to the other things that you should consider. As I've said earlier, prep is everything. You know what, my rule of thumb for me personally, I've done so many cutovers, so countless of them already, and what I do is I pre-configure everything as much as possible and have them applied as much as possible, to the point that a cutover for me, if a cutover for me personally is lasting more than 5 minutes, that's already too long. For me, a cutover is like just changing an IP or removing a route from here, moving to that new location. Okay, so pre-configure everything as much as you can. I couldn't emphasize that enough. Another tip that I would like to give you guys is have a cutover plan, especially for complex cutovers or solutions that you will be implementing for the first time. You have no idea that will help you. It has helped me a lot of times, especially if I'm doing something that I know it will work, but the other guys have done it and I'll be doing it for the first time. You have no idea how much it will help you, and don't deviate from it. Even if you think that, oh, I think I should jump to step 3, I think it should be fine. No, take it from me. Take it from me. If you have a cutover plan, preparation is everything, right? You've devoted the time to prepare yourself, to write your cutover plan, and during the time of the cutover, do not deviate, unless it's like worst case scenario. I'm telling you this because I've done it. Like, I deviated from my own plan and I caused an outage, affecting more than who should be affected, and it's not gonna be a good day the next day, especially if you're doing the cut. Normally cutovers, like the complex ones, they happen after hours. So let's say 12 midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and you don't want to get a call from your boss or your manager telling you like, Dylan, I'm seeing all these alerts, what have you done? And and the only thing you can say is like, sorry boss, I've deviated from the plan. Alright, so those are like my cutover tips. They're pretty simple if you think about it, but the fact is, as long as you prepare everything ahead of time, you know what you're doing, everything is going to turn out fine. Like I said, a cutover, depending on how complex or simple it is, it shouldn't take like hours. So I remember a story wherein somebody requested for an engineer over the weekend, and they were like, hey, we need an engineer. We would like to change our routing protocol from OSPF to BGP. And I said, yeah, sure. Okay, so what time would you want this engineer to be available for you to do the to perform the cutover? Oh, it's going to be from this time to that time, which in total was like 6 hours. And I'm like, there's like a lot of I don't know why it would take 6 hours just to change a routing protocol. Either you're going to use that time to read about how to cut over from OSPF to BGP, or it's just going to give you enough time to test. I understand the testing, but testing shouldn't take like as long as 6 hours. So I told them, well, you're doing this at ad hoc, and you're going to pay the engineer by the hour, which is more than your standard managed service. So would you still want that? And they said, oh no, we still want somebody on standby. I do understand that, but a cutover shouldn't last for 6 hours. So if you are that kind of an engineer, or no, let me rephrase that. If you are doing the cutover yourself and you are the customer, always also think about timing. Okay, so when do you want to do it? Do you want to do it after hours? Do you want to do it during the weekends? You also need to consider like the service provider on the other end, right? So like the availability, and is there like a certain engineer that you want to do this with, or it doesn't matter with you? Who has much control over this cutover? Is it you? Is it the service provider? All these things should be accounted for as part of your cutover plan. By the way, on your cutover plan, it should also include the rollback plan, right? If things go pear-shaped, you should be ready to, have things in place in the event that things don't go well, like you're cutting over for a service that all of a sudden stopped working. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna end with that. I hope you find that useful and helpful to you guys. I know it's been a while since I posted a video. Actually, it's all about I have backlogs of video. I've been attending a couple of trainings, conferences. I saw Tony Robbins last week. Yeah, it's been amazing, as advertised, as how you see them in in opera. He really rocks the house. And overall, the conference, yeah, I will admit, most of it is just marketing, and they will ask you to buy their stuff or what they're selling. Hey, it's a business. At the end of the day, it's still a business, but it's really up to you if you want to buy them or not. I got convinced in buying this certain training about book writing, because I'm thinking of, hopefully, who knows, I'll be not who knows, I intend to write a book. Alright guys, I will end here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Again, leave a like if you find this video interesting, share it with your friends, and I'll see you next week. Oh no, not next week, see you in the next video. Alright, remember guys, as what I keep on saying, keep on studying, because it's all worth it. Cheers guys, bye.